Hello, 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 and welcome back to another episode of the Rebel Project podcast. I'm very, very excited about this next guest. We actually met by me being a guest on her podcast, one of her two podcasts that she runs. And I'm very excited to announce that I've got Christine Chang here joining me today. And the reason I wanted her on the show is because I've got to meet her and do an episode of her podcast, which is called Show Up with Christine. And ever since then, I've just kind of followed her journey and just watched her as she's just courageously stepped into new areas and new passions, and she keeps showing up, if you will. And I just love the fearlessness that she has. And so I was like, I gotta tap into that, talk to her about it, and figure out what is that thing for her that just keeps her going. So Christine, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming all the way down from Los Angeles to be here today.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's so refreshing to go on other podcasts because it's less pressure on me. I'm sure. Do you ever feel it? Like what question am I going to ask next versus being present? Go with the flow. Don't go with.
There's definitely an element of preparation that comes in when you're the host.
Yeah.
You've got to have, okay, what's the layout? What are we going to talk about? Yeah. But when you're on the receiving end and you're a guest, it's I think it's a little more fun. It's a little more free, and you have the ability to catch whatever question you got and throw it back the way you want. So definitely more pressure over on this side, the host. When I was on yours, I was like, let's go. This is fun.
Oh my gosh, you did so good. So Luke came on and he talked about, at that time you were single, so you were talking about dating, and you were so vulnerable and open. Women love that episode. And I think you got some DMs.
I did. I actually did get a lot of DMs. That was a great episode. It was a good experience. I think it was really helpful for me to just talk some of those things out and just kind of put it out there. And I thought it was really well received, and it was such a fun episode to do. And you asked great questions. So this is going to be exciting. I get to ask the questions, and now you get to tell me all about your life. So today's episode, we're going to be talking about two things specifically. One is your desire and call to do what you do. You're currently a photographer. You run a podcast. You run another podcast. You've written a book. You help your dad's business. You do a lot of different things, and it seems like you just do all of it with grace and love. And I want to talk about how you kind of got yourself into the position where you're juggling all these different things, and then also talk about career transition, because what you've done is no longer what you want to do to support yourself. And let's dive deep into that. So first off, fill me in on your story.
Oh my gosh.
How did you get to be who you are doing what you do today?
Well, it's funny you said graceful, because on the outside it might look calm, but the emotions when I'm at home by myself or just with my husband don't always look like that. And that's actually what I'd love to talk about today, because I think a lot of people are going through career transition or have gone through career transition,
right? Or
even since pandemic, people just feel lonely. So I'm like, can we talk about the emotions that come with this? A lot of us, we see people on Instagram, oh my gosh, he's doing so good. Do you know what he goes through or what he had to go through to get there?
Right.
And so right now I'm at an interesting point in my life. I'm in my early 40s, and I heard something, I want to say midlife crisis, but someone said you could reframe it and say like midlife awakening or something, like reframing, something like that.
Yeah.
But I really started to question, what do I want to be doing actually with my life? And for a long time, wedding photography was it. There was no question about it. I was super focused. Yeah. I had clear direction. I knew what I was aiming for, and I did it, over the course of 15 years, and I built my reputation to get paid really well for it.
Yeah.
But I'm a person who, if something is not in alignment with me anymore, I feel it. And I value growth a lot. And I knew at a certain point, I don't want to be a wedding photographer forever. But I also didn't know what was next. I didn't have an exit plan. I would actually give that advice for someone who's doing their first business, or if you're on your first career. I mean, some people, they never change, but
right.
It's a pretty good idea to have an exit plan if you have an idea of your interests already. I did not. I kind of follow my passions.
Yep.
So I wasn't prepared. When the pandemic hit, that kind of was a nudge for me because all events were canceled. So I had no other choice.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, there's no weddings going on. It kind of forced me, which I was kind of thankful for because it's hard to say no when you're getting offered over 5 figures for a day of work.
Right.
Right. And to me, I could shoot a wedding with my eyes closed. It was so easy, but I kind of hit a plateau.
Yeah.
And so with the pandemic, it was a blessing. So when it started, what did I do? I mean, I wrote a book. I think that's kind of my, what do you call it? And like, I didn't want to sit around and complain. I didn't want to freak out. I just, let me be productive.
Yeah.
My coping mechanism.
Right.
I'm like, let me
with all that free time.
Yes. Let me write a book. So for many years, I had a photography blog. I love to write. So I wrote. I shared my work. I shared about my personal growth journey. I talked about dating a lot. And I think that's why I was drawn to weddings because I've always been very drawn to connection between two people.
Oh, okay.
Intuitively, I'm drawn to it. I can see it. Those moments I can catch, not just between, the husband and wife, but the family dynamics. I loved it.
Yeah.
And so it came very natural to me. And so with the writing, I wrote hundreds, thousands of blog posts. And so I kind of had content to piggyback off of. I knew what I wanted to write the book about because for a lot of years before I met my husband, I had trouble with dating. I felt like, is there something wrong with me? Being a high performer, I know how to make money. I have friends. I come from a good family. I got hobbies. Why is this sliver of life so challenging for me? And so I had to dive in and do a lot of healing and personal growth work. And it's hard to be in that place. And I think it's something that we should talk more about because as soon as I started talking about it more, I've had conversations with so many people who resonated with that. So I said, I know exactly who I'm going to write the book for. It's the old me, but I know a lot of people who are in that space. When I was there, I wish I had something like this.
Yeah.
Permission to talk about this and feeling like a failure. Is there something wrong with me? I think if you're a high performer, there's shame as well because it's like, this is something I'm not good at.
Yeah.
I'm not good at this. And there's this societal expectation, I think, like, oh, you're supposed to know how to be in a relationship. You're supposed to know how to be married. You're supposed to know how to be a parent. And that's just not true. These are some people, maybe they're lucky they grew up with seeing really healthy dynamics between their parents or something modeled for them.
But that's not everybody.
I think the majority is actually, I think you're lucky if you have that.
I would agree. I would agree. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, my parents are, they're immigrants. My mom's a refugee. The way they were raised, there was no emotional consideration. It's just you do. It's survival mode.
Right.
And I'm very empathetic of that now as an adult, but as a kid, it was really hard. And I was not shown a good example, I think, of being in a healthy, intimate relationship. So I sought those skills out as an adult. Good communication will get you really far in life. And if you want an intimate relationship, which I really wanted, I wanted a healthy one. I said, what do I have to do and who do I have to be to create what I want?
Yeah.
And so that's what my book is about.
Interesting. Wow. I've learned so much about your photography career, and it's so cool that like you kind of took this career of shooting photography that you had a passion for, capturing the love between two people, to then kind of dissecting the connection between two people on your podcast and in your book, and looking like what is it that is going to get me to or get somebody to the altar down the aisle, and falling in love with somebody genuinely, and what are the skills required, and where's the passion, and yeah, I love the question. Who do I have to be, and what do I have to do in order to have this type of relationship connection that I wasn't shown in my upbringing?
Yes.
So I love that. Okay, so show up. So you started having these conversations. One thing I wanted to ask you about, though, with your photography, though, is you said that it was so easy, and you got to this point where it was just so easy. But can you talk to me a little bit more about like what was missing? I mean, you get these jobs, people are paying you, 5 figures a day, and he's like, okay, cool, I'm doing everything right,
Yeah.
but something isn't clicking still right at this moment. You're like, there's something more. There's something different that I need. Can you talk to me about like
Sure.
what's going through your mind? You're making the money you want. You've got the schedule you want. You've got the clientele you want. Everything seems to be great on paper, but there's a call somewhere else.
That's a great question. I think the money part, after you start making a certain amount of money and you feel secure there, that you don't crave more money. You realize that's more money's not going to make your life better.
Yeah.
I'm not a super bougie person in general. I'm not trying to go after the private jets and stuff. There is enough for me. Like my husband and I, we live in a beautiful home by the beach. Like what else can I ask for? I'm not trying to go bigger, bigger, bigger. So financially, I'm comfortable. I know that the solution isn't more money.
Yeah.
I think at the time, because I was pretty young when I started photographing the weddings, I think it was the draw too of I wanted to get married. So I kind of used it as like a study. So I naturally liked being at weddings because, well, number one, it's beautiful. I'm very artistic, so I like being around pretty things. But it's a happy time too. It made me very optimistic versus maybe someone who's a divorce lawyer or stuff. That's what they're hearing all day. But it made me very optimistic. I loved hearing speeches from the best friends and things like that. So I think I outgrew that period in my life where I was like, okay, I get it. And I've done enough research for myself. So basically at weddings, I would kind of observe what kind of connection I was drawn to, because there's different kinds of connection.
Of course.
And the ones that I liked the best were the bride and groom, the kind of couple where there's this quiet stillness between them. Like they could exist side by side and they're best friends.
Yeah.
But it's not performative. It's not overly done. It just is. I really, really liked that. And that's one of the number one things that I value in a relationship is ease.
Mm.
I think some people, they really get energized by working on things all the time. And being married, I mean, P and I have been together 8 years now. Yes, there's going to be work involved.
Of course.
But there's an underlying ease to it. We're not constantly working on stuff.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that? Explain this. There's an overall quietness. Like home is a sanctuary. It's not something to work on all the time, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I love that you notice the difference, between the connection. There's different chemistry that happens between couples, and sometimes people just work because they have similar mindsets or intellect, and then some people just work because their heart just resonates on the same frequency. And it's like you said, there's like this peace, unspoken peace between them, and it's really cool that you were able to identify and notice that, and be able to put that as a goal for yourself, which is great. So how long have you been married?
Married, oh my gosh, I think 5 years.
Okay, together
5
8
years.
years, married
Yes.
5 years.
Yes.
Okay, so you're saying you wrote your book though around COVID, and so that was 4 years ago.
Yeah, so we were already married.
Okay. But your books show up and then you started the podcast afterwards?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
And the podcast Show Up with Christine Chang is a dating podcast for high performers.
Yeah, we talk about relationships and personal growth.
So talk to me. You're married. You got what you wanted. You did the photography thing, and now you're starting this podcast about dating. Why was that message so important to you, or why did you want to have or open that conversation?
Because I know how hard it can be when you're in that space. And I think in the end, I mean, just imagine you're on your deathbed. What are you going to be thinking about? For most people, it's your relationships.
Okay.
I really value good relationships. And I think if most people are being honest, I think we get caught up in Instagram world, maybe chasing other things. And it's important to have your own goals and things like that. But I think in the end, it's the relationships. So I told myself when I wrote my book and started the podcast, if I can just help one person shift their life, I will be so happy. That was my intention. Like, I would do this for free. Because I think that's valuable. That's giving back. It's more fulfilling than a big ass paycheck. And of course, I mean, I can say that at the point where I'm financially comfortable, but it's
Sure.
the fulfillment's there. Do I want to be known as a dating coach or dating author? Not necessarily, like on my tombstone. Like, no. And I had to go through all this with going through my career transition. People are like, so what are you doing? You have this book. What? But it is a part of me that I felt the calling to, it needs to come out and I need to put it out into the world.
Yeah.
Blah. And I did it. Okay. So I got it out, and you know, I've done some corporate talks, and it's really fulfilling because I see the women in that room. When it clicks, it clicks.
Yeah.
I know exactly who I'm talking to.
Uh-huh.
So in general, if you're an anxious dater, my book and my content is for you, because that feeling, it's not fun. So I really enjoy helping people get clarity on what they want and what to do, because when you have clarity, then you have confidence in your decisions. Because some people, they ask, like, how do I create this? How do I stop being attracted to this type of person?
Yeah.
And I say, you need to heal. Yeah, and that looks different for everybody. And
Right.
I give examples in my book of things that I did and stories of my upbringing and things that I had to heal.
Uh-huh.
But once you heal, you start to see things differently.
Right.
Your attraction will change. You'll choose differently, and you'll be confident in your decisions.
Interesting. So when you started down that road, did you already have an idea of who you were talking to when you started writing the book? And
Yes.
did you have a circle of high performers? Like, was it high performers right off the get-go, or did you just want to help people date better?
It was high performers specifically,
Right from the start.
There's some patterns with us.
Yeah.
I think high performers tend to excel in work and maybe sports and their hobbies, because we live in this space of it's not enough. Maybe I'm not enough. We like the climb. We like being in that space, or it feels familiar to us.
Yeah.
If that pours over into your personal life, it doesn't always work well. So I had to work on my self-worth. I felt like I had to earn love. I didn't know that I could just show up as me and be lovable. I didn't know that. I thought I had to perform.
Yeah, performance-based love.
Yeah, and I mean, it was based on my upbringing. My parents are very big on education, and the times I got the most attention from my mom, she's like a phenomenal businesswoman. She was the tennis champ of Cambodia. She's super high performer, amazing woman. But I would get the most smiles and applause from her when I was excelling at something.
Yep.
And I like that she raised us like that. She said she raised my sister and I to be very capable. It's more survival mode. She said, I just don't want you to have to rely on someone. Just make sure you could take care of yourself.
Right.
And you'll also feel more confident when you make your own money and stuff. And I'm like, you're right. It feels better when you spend your own money.
Yeah.
The emotional side was lacking. I was a very sensitive kid. So there was a part of me who needed or really wished for a very nurturing personality, which wasn't my mom, but I've done all the work where I'm at peace with it, and I know nobody's perfect. You know, some of us, we want to blame our parents. I'm like, are you perfect? Are you going to be the perfect parent? You know, it's their first time doing something.
Exactly. Yeah, that's I resonate with that a lot. You know, and like parents are in such a tough position because, on one hand, they're equipping you for life, and they want you to be exposed to skills, and they have high expectations of us growing up, and it's really hard for us to take that instruction, but also decipher the emotion underneath it. I'm sure they loved us deep down, and it wasn't performance-based love that they were giving us, but it felt that way. And so we feel like I'm only valuable when I do what it's expected, or do, you know, exceptionally well in something. And you start to notice, like, that's when you receive the most praise, is when you're extremely well behaved or extremely highly accomplished. And it's a hard ball of emotion to unwind later in life and go, did they do their best? Was it intentional? Is there something wrong with me? Does this mean that other people see me the exact same way? Like, and so as you're writing your book, as you're starting your podcast, is this your process of healing, or have you healed before that?
I would say I had already healed before that.
Okay.
And I wanted to be in a place where I was confident, where I could give people a blueprint of this is what I've done. Because that's been helpful for me whenever I've done some kind of personal growth, whether it's reading a book or doing a workshop. When someone shares their story, sometimes you could see yourself in that story. And so that was my goal. So I share examples of things that I had gone through as a child, some of the healing, and then I ask questions at the end of some of the chapters to help people gain that clarity, because maybe they can resonate with some of my stories.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I love it. So were you shocked when you started down this path? Like you said, like you would do it for free. You knew you wanted to help at least just one person. And if you did, that would make it all worth it. So when you started down this path, you wrote the book, it seemed like that started the conversation and people were asking for more. So then you decided to fulfill that need with the podcast. Yeah. You started getting some guests. Like, did you know what you were doing? Or
no. Oh, hell no.
So you just jumped in the deep end and just decided to start swimming?
I tend to do that. Actually, since I was a kid, I would do stuff like that. And I think the confidence comes from my mother, actually.
Okay.
Because I watched her build 2 biotech companies in Silicon Valley. I see what it takes. And so to me, I was just like, oh, just do this. Have patience, have grit, and you'll get what you want.
Yeah.
And for them building their companies, it's probably takes, I would say, a good 10 years to really build a reputation in general. And my mom would remind me of this when I was building my photography business. I think I was 7 years in, and I was already doing really well. And she made a comment once, like, don't forget you're still building your reputation. She's a fantastic business mentor. I feel really, really lucky to have her.
That's great. That's really good. Okay. Well, so, I mean, you're still technically, I guess, building your reputation in that space.
I mean, now things are just forever evolving. So with photography, I've shifted more into corporate photography right now because it gives me more mental and emotional space, because I love corporate. I love the paychecks. It's not personal. They're just like in and out, right? Yeah. Like, give me the photos. It's in and out. Weddings, of course, as they should. People care a lot, but I feel it. The pressure, you can't redo it. I would get stressed out every time. Like, don't fuck this up.
Yeah, right.
Like, do not fuck this up. Don't miss anything. Do your best. And I think when I was younger, I had more energy for that. And I would travel the world and stuff. It was amazing. And after a while, I also got physically tired. And I thought, like, hey, in my 60s, am I going to want to be carrying this heavy ass equipment going? It's just not the same.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to your exit, having an exit in mind when you start a business. It is
right?
pretty important.
Right. I just lost my train of thought.
Well, you were talking about photography and going into the business mentorship with your mom and how she helped you, and you just knew what it took, and you were going into the
confidence of always just following my gut. I think I have a strong intuition that I trust a lot, and so I listen to that, and I think it steers me right.
Yeah,
it always has. And it's very loud. I can't ignore it. If something's off, it's off.
Yeah.
I also acknowledge I'm in a position where I'm able to pursue my passions. Because there's other things to consider too. What country you live in, where you're born, financial circumstances.
Sure.
So I do feel very lucky that I'm in a place where I can do that. But it's always good as a business owner. Of course, you map out worst case scenario, right? That would be the smart thing. There is a chance that this is not going to work.
Right.
Or I'm not going to make any money from this. I think my self-awareness is pretty good. I think if I was not good at something, I'm not delusional, and I was like, I'm going to try to be good at this. What are my strengths? And I'm going to go that direction. Or if I don't have those skills yet, like the podcast, I'm like, these first episodes are not going to be good.
Yep.
My filler words, and I still do them. And it's good to watch yourself back or listen to yourself back to hear,
of course,
how do I sound? And there's always room for improvement, right? So I view the podcast as building skill and confidence in front of the camera. My voice, which is usually not what I lead with in terms of self-expression. I think you're a talker, right?
Yeah.
You're a talker.
Yeah.
So it comes naturally to you. I'm not, which is funny that I have a podcast because as an artist at my core, the photography fits and the writing fits because it's like, here's my heart. This is what I see. There you go.
Yeah.
Typically, I'm behind the camera. It's not my face. It's not my voice. And if you would have met me as a kid, I barely talked. I was so shy.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. My mom, she always says, she's like, I cannot believe you turned out how you turned out. You've completely changed. And I think as a kid, I wasn't given the environment to really nurture who I was.
Mm-hmm.
There is a quirky, silly side of me, and I feel like that was always kind of shut off, or I was just really sensitive. So if I got a comment that was disapproving or something, I would just kind of shut it off. And then so I think coming into adulthood, moving away from home, I lived in New York for a while, like having some space.
Yeah.
Who am I and who do I want to be? Also, being a photographer, a wedding photographer, you have to have good people skills, right? It's not just about doing pretty photos. That's a dime a dozen. Anyone can do that.
You got to make them feel comfortable.
It's more that, actually.
Make sure there's attention on them and they see that you working, and
that's how, right? People gravitate. That's how you sell something, is based on how you make someone feel.
Exactly.
And I think I'm very sensitive, so I think I can kind of gauge what people feel or what they need.
Yeah.
And so, building that skill. So the podcast is great. I do think it's a stepping stone into something bigger in the future. I have an interest in movie making and films. And right now it's a good time for Asians in that space. So I've been networking more in that space. And I see that in the long run.
Okay.
That one, it takes a long time to build. I think a lot of it is networking, timing. There's a lot of luck involved too. But that's something that I want to go towards. So right now I'm sitting in the space of, I'm doing the podcast. The corporate photography generates the checks, which I feel good about, because when those checks aren't coming in, and my husband's so lovely, he never pressures me.
Yeah.
There was a time where I was really depressed in bed. Just I didn't feel like I had a clear purpose at all. I was seriously depressed, and he was never hard on me. Like financially, we're okay too, so that that helps.
I think it helps a lot.
It does help a lot, but I still feel better when I'm generating income. I like it. I really, really like it. So the corporate photography gives me that. And then right now with my dad, that's a whole nother story. He's 82. He never wants to retire. He owns a biotech company.
Wow.
All of us want him to sell it. He will never sell it as long as he's able to work or he's alive. And that's been a boundaries thing too, because it's my dad and I want to help him. He asks, but I have to put up strong boundaries. I said, I'll help you with branding and marketing. Hire an operations manager. It's not me. I don't live in the Bay Area. I'm married. And he'll say like, I understand. You have your own life, but I'll still get those texts or calls. I said, Dad, hire an operations manager. And, it's tough because he's not going to be around for that much longer. But at the same time, I'm not willing to compromise my truth just to make him happy, to live in this world. I'm like, that's your choice to have this company and continue it. You cannot put it on other people and drag us into this. It's not fair.
Right.
Or at least drag us into it the way you want to.
Yeah. Oh,
so I've been dealing with those emotions.
Well, you wear many hats. You're a photographer. You're a wife.
All over the place.
Helping your dad with his business. You're a host on podcasts. You have aspirations of making films. What a question that's popping up for me is like, you mentioned earlier, when you're starting a business, have an exit plan. Do you have one with the podcasts, or did you just jump into that? And then also, now I'm hearing the film. And so I wanted to ask, do you find that you operate more with a plan and a blueprint and a destination, and that's what kind of gets you going towards that next milestone? Or do you kind of live by a little bit more intuitive spontaneity where you're like, this seems like it's going to fill me up and fill my cup, and I would do it for free. I do it because I love it, and I don't really know what it's going to end like, You know, like it's kind of opposite of the business mind. It's more of the follow your heart creative mind. So do you live more in that intuitive spontaneity place, or do you more of like have to have things mapped out?
Oh, definitely the intuitive spontaneity.
Okay.
It's funny, I have both. It's like a battle in my brain because I have the business side. Compared to my creative friends, I'm a lot more organized. I understand business maybe because of my upbringing
Yeah.
and being organized and having systems and things like that. But at my heart, I am a creative. And it's funny because my husband's the opposite. That's why we're so compatible. He's a linear thinker. He is a CFO. He's a numbers guy.
Got it.
So it really helps that he's more of like, what's the next step to get you to where to go? Where
Sure.
initially I'm a dreamer, so I have the vision. I have the vision of what I think I want. And then I kind of go with my intuition. But it ebbs and flows because I think lately, the last couple of years, it's been a little too intuitive and flowy to the point where I'm sure my husband will tell you, he's, like focus. You need to focus a little bit.
But that's what's so intriguing about you is that like that could be a very stressful place for a lot of people, constantly almost in a state of it's almost everything's a balancing act. Where's my heart leading me today? Where's my heart leading me tomorrow? Well, this seems fun for now, and you don't really know what's next, but you're having a great time. Now, some people can have a great time, and some people can be very like, oh my gosh, I don't know what's next, and that could freak them out. Whereas you, it's kind of, it charges you up in a way. And having like, I'm called to talk about dating for high performers on this podcast and write a book, and you didn't really have an exit plan, and then it segued into another podcast, and then now film is on the horizon, and it's like, to me, I love that same like intuitive spontaneity where it's like, let life breed life in me every single day, and just kind of, it's like this improv every single day of your life. And then some people are like, no, I need to know what's happening this every hour, every day, every month. They have their whole life mapped out. I get both sides, but where I feel most alive is like in that intuitive spontaneity.
Yeah.
Is that like resonate with you?
Yeah, totally. I think you need both, because I think if people are too intuitive, you could maybe get to where you're going. It just might not be as organized or as quick. But
That is true.
Right? But I think how I feel is very important. So ultimately, with building any business, it's the emotional fulfillment that comes with it. As long as I'm making enough money to live the lifestyle that I want, like that, I have to have a minimum there. And then how I feel is very important. And I think I have a lot of depth. I'm not just a person who views work as work.
Right.
It's a part of me. My work is me.
Yeah. No, that's huge. That's huge. And you love what you do. But you're kind of seeking something else. It seems like you've kind of mastered the income game, and you're able to provide for yourself. You've got ways and options to do that, and now you're seeming to place higher priority on the feeling and purpose and your calling and where's your place, right?
Yes.
And so you're in a state of a transition.
I am in transition. Obviously, I'm doing so many things. I know I need to focus, and I will get there.
Yep.
Because I think if you want to excel at something, you need to focus. I'm doing a lot of things right now, and I've kind of come into acceptance that this is what's going on right now. My dad's at the age that he's at. Something will change probably in the near future.
Yep.
With the podcast, you had asked if there's an exit plan with that. This has helped recently that I kind of categorize things that I'm doing, because the podcast doesn't generate income for me right now. And I think to really be successful, you want your podcast to be your thing. It takes a lot of time and a lot of energy. And I asked myself, I'm like, do I want my podcast to be my number one thing? And the answer is actually no. It's more of for my self-expression. Yeah. I view it as practice speaking in front of the camera. And when there comes a time where I don't have enough time to allocate towards it, and just say I have more opportunity in the film business.
Yeah.
I'll stop the podcast, and I'm fine with that.
Interesting.
And I'm fine with that. But I think some people do have, I've actually had this before of, I want to follow through.
Yeah.
Right? But sometimes I've had to learn to give myself permission. Like, you tried something, and sometimes you don't know until you do it.
Of course.
Right? You do it like, hey, maybe this isn't for me, or maybe I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
I wanted to do it then. I don't want to do it anymore. And giving myself permission to do that. There is such thing, I think, as hopping around too much. I see some people, I'm like, just stick to something, right? And I'm able to do that. Obviously, I did it with photography. But right now, I think I'm kind of in learning and exploring phase again.
Yeah.
Which reminds me of being in my 20s, except I'm not in my 20s anymore. So the emotions are different.
Yeah.
When you're in 20s, you feel like you have more time.
Right.
I was more gentle on myself. Like, I'm just learning what I like and what I don't like. Now I think to myself, are you being efficient with your time? Is this serving where you want to go?
Right.
And a lot of times I won't know until I do it.
Yeah.
Right? Like when I start making movies, maybe I don't want to direct. Maybe I want to produce instead. And those things will come as I do them more.
Yeah.
Right? So I have to remind myself to be patient and that I'm learning. I asked for this. I asked for the growth, and this comes with it.
It's true. It's true. And, it's interesting, like, you started a podcast out of a interest and a problem to solve and a person you wanted to help. Like, this is the person I want to help with this kind of content. And what I love about it is that you start things and go down a pathway because you know that it's going to help you acquire a skill. So it's almost like you have a very strong awareness and interest in what is this going to give me, and also how am I going to give this message out. But you're acquiring, communication skills, which is something that you value a lot, and also on camera, and how to know your angles, how to know your voice and get rid of those fillers and all those things. So you're perfecting a skill, and you already are aware that this isn't quite the end game, and you do give yourself so much grace to kind of like, hey, if this isn't fulfilling me anymore, I learned this and this and this from it. I get to take this forever, and I'm going to move on and use that in the next project, which is film, or which is podcast number 2. So that's really cool that you're aware of the skill development and skill acquisition that you're getting along these passion projects in a way. Yeah, I love that. I love that. I think I do the same thing. I value new experiences so much, and I don't make a determination of, oh yes, this is my path, when I really don't know what that path looks like doing that thing. Yeah. But I want to expose myself to it and be like, okay, let's get in the water. Let's see what it's like. Like, what does this feel like? Try it on for a little bit, and then realize if it's something you want to do for a little bit, a lot of bit, or forever. And so going back to your transition into the podcast, and it is a passion of yours, but you're also realizing that to grow it to the place that you want it, it's going to require a lot of effort. Not more than you're willing to put into it, but to make money from it.
Right. I mean, think of the biggest podcast, there's actually not that many in the personal growth space, I feel, that are the person's number one thing.
Interesting.
And they put out a lot of episodes.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So I'm like, am I willing to do that? Do I want to do that? And the answer is no. I don't. But I enjoy it a lot. I like connecting with people. My second podcast is called Not Your Asian Women, and it's with an Asian comedian, where we just talk shit. It's seriously a show about nothing, but surprisingly it does well. I think people are just craving authenticity and self-expression, or the freedom just to say maybe not the most conscious thing. Can we just have a conversation and laugh about some stuff?
Yeah.
Right. So I use it as that. At the time when I started it, I wanted more levity in my life because since the pandemic, it has been kind of heavy and politically, what can I say, what can I not? And I think having the comedian as my co-host, she pushes it. Her goal is to be canceled. She wants to be canceled. She said, that's when I know I've made it, because enough people care to want to cancel me. And the things she says gives me permission. I'm like, okay, this isn't so bad, because that was straight up really racist what you just said.
Right.
But for her, she's a comedian, and she's overly offensive, but I like it in a way, you know? So I'm kind of practicing that muscle as well.
That's cool.
A self-expression.
But yeah, that authenticity is so contagious. And when you see others just saying it like it is, even if it's PC or not, you know, like it's kind of liberating. It's like, wow, like it can be done. And you put yourself in a position where you're next to somebody who's got no filter, and it's causing you to kind of break down your filters a little bit and go, wow, like I can say what I'm feeling
and be
unapologetically me.
Yeah.
Right. And so again, it's like you put yourself in this position where it's like you're drawing out something within you through the experiences that you're desiring. And you know that that's going to also add to your future experience of filmmaking.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're going to have to have some hard conversations with some people. And if you have too many filters up, you won't be able to do that. And you also won't be able to create the art or the vision or the story that you want in your films if you're too filtered. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, it's definitely, well, having a podcast, I think, trains one to have thicker skin too, because not everyone's going to like what you say.
Yeah.
You know, with the clips that we post, of course there's hater messages, and I knew what I was signing up for. If I start doing this and putting myself on camera, I'm going to get hater messages. Am I ready for this? And it's something I actually want to build a resilience towards.
Interesting.
And so seeing the stuff come in, I mean, most of it, my sister always says the internet's like the garbage disposal of people's minds, which it is, you know, and most of the people who do those comments, it's just, I know it's usually funny to me, but occasionally there's the one where I'm like, ooh, oh God,
they cut a little deep.
Got it. Yeah, so it's training me. And, you know, for future films and things like that, I'm sure critics, they'll tear it apart. People hate it. You'll have flops. Yeah. There's a lot out of your control.
Yeah.
Because you're working with such a big crew too. And you're working with studios maybe. So it's not just your project. You know, there's only so much I can control. So letting go of that control.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. You don't seem like you carry a lot of anxiety.
I don't. I do. I have some. But but I wouldn't say that's I don't operate. It's not my main one.
Yeah,
I'm the other one, avoidant.
Avoidant. Describe that.
Oh, do you know that there's like attachment styles, anxious attachment and avoidant?
Well, I mean, yeah, but like what specifically do you avoid?
Okay, just say conflict. Or just say someone wants to like have a difficult conversation that I don't want to have, and they're anxious about it. Can we talk? My natural instinct is to avoid that. I'm like, I don't want to do it. Where they're trying to connect, anxious, and sometimes it's off-putting to me if someone's too anxious and needs a lot of validation. I naturally don't do well with that, and I know that's an empathy thing, you know. But it's difficult for me to be around. It's not pleasant for me. I understand everyone's different, and I'm kind of a you do you person. So with making friends, for example, you know, a different episode, but making new friends when you become an adult. You know, I have some friends from college, but you know, as things change, I like to be very particular about who I surround myself with.
Yeah, right.
So I was making new friends. So as an adult, I realized recently that the anxious, if they have an underlying anxiousness to them, I could hang out with them in group settings and things like that, but not one-on-one, like not in my house. I might have more emotional space for it later on, but right now I don't.
Did you discover this anxious sensitivity on the podcast for High Performance Dating? Because I thought you said that a lot of them are anxious about it.
True, but
I do have it. Did you kind of like whoa? Like there's an energy here that I'm
Okay.
noticing?
Yeah. That's a good point. No, it wasn't on my podcast, but I did acknowledge I do have anxiousness inside me. And when I was dating for a good number of years, I was the anxious dater.
Oh,
I
okay.
know what it feels like to be there. It doesn't feel good.
Yeah, right.
Right. So I had to heal a lot of that. And things still kick up. Like the last time I was really anxious, it doesn't happen often. I had planned, it was for my 40th birthday. I had spent a lot of money booking this venue, and it's black tie. And this is, COVID. We're probably like a year into COVID. And then that week I was just thinking, what if there's a COVID breakout? What if I get it and I have to cancel the party? And it just kicked up in me where I couldn't control the emotions that came up. And it was very unfamiliar to me. I was like, oh my God, what's going on here? People are flying out for this. And luckily everything was okay. But I remember that's the last time I really felt it.
Wow.
And maybe there's some unhealed stuff within me that I'm still sensitive to. And maybe it's hard. That's why it's hard for me to be around.
Yeah.
But I think it's different. I think if someone has anxiety, but they don't push it onto me, I feel okay. But when I feel it pushed onto me,
that's different.
Right now, I don't have the emotional space for that where I am in life.
And what's your boundary for that? How do you let people politely know that's your bullshit, not mine?
Yeah, I can be better at that, saying it in the moment, but I think they know by the way that I show up. Like I'm at the point where if I don't want to have lunch with someone or I don't want to do something, it's a no.
Yeah.
Where I didn't think I was a people pleaser, but in recent years I realized, sometimes I show up to things that I don't want to. What's up with this? I'm trying to be polite.
Got it.
That's what it is. And I realized I'm done being polite. And the people who really love me and will understand will not take that shit personally.
Yeah.
Like, it's a no. And I like to talk direct. The rainbows and shooting stars, like landing super gentle. I understand having tact, but if someone's just too sensitive, I feel like I have to tiptoe and it doesn't feel natural to me. And because I value that ease, like, it would be nice if just both of us can just be who we are without the other person being like, oh, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I gravitate towards that. So for the people who, when I sense that there is an anxiousness and where things just don't feel easy. We'll be getting ready for something. I'm like, why is this such a big deal? Like, okay, your eyelashes aren't working. It's fine, to do it. But I'm like, to freak out over that, it's just not pleasant for me. So I'm like, I'll see you at the party. Like next time, it's like, I won't invite them to stay at my place, and they can get a hotel, and I'll see you at the party, and it's fine.
Right.
And so I've gotten a lot more clear about my friendship groups of who's in the immediate group, which is a very small group. I count it on one hand.
Yeah, that's great.
And then there's the exterior group, and then there's different, like my business friends. I place people where they belong.
That's got it. I mean, I think that's why you're so successful in your endeavors, is because you do have that spontaneous intuition, but you also organize things very well. These people go over here. These feelings go over here, and when I'm feeling this, I'm either going to avoid it or I'm going to deal with it. And if someone's trying to project something on me, I have boundaries in place. And you're realizing through self-discovery that your tolerance for certain things is becoming less and less and less. Yeah. And it's also not just making you rude, but it's making you honor yourself a little bit more.
Yes.
You're giving permission for yourself to just be.
Yes.
And you don't have to show up for somebody else. And it kind of goes back to what you're saying with that performance based. You're doing it to be polite because you don't want anyone to think ill of you. And so you have to perform this polite act, sort of, I mean, I feel like there's a subtle connection, but I feel like when you do have those boundaries, when you say no to things outside of you, I feel like you subtly say yes to yourself.
Yes.
Right?
100%.
Yeah. So talk to me more about that. Where are you saying no to things that you don't want in your life, and where are you saying yes to things that are calling you to expand and become?
Yes, I love that word, expand. It's actually my 2024 word is expansiveness.
Nailed it.
That's what I want to feel. Yeah. So if I feel that, that's a good sign, and I'm going to go towards it.
Yeah.
If I don't feel that, or if I feel restricted, I don't want to be around it if I can help it.
Yeah.
We all do things that we don't want to do sometimes. You know, I
Sure.
have to sit with my CPA and do my taxes, okay? But overall, for a lot of years, I think I felt bad too, growing apart from some friends, because nothing bad necessarily happened. Whenever priorities change, I think friendship dynamics change.
Yeah.
And we're at the age where, you know, people get married, they have kids and things like that. And I've come to the point to accept it is what it is. It's not necessarily good or it's bad.
Right.
It just
right.
is what it is. Our interests are different. Right. So that's basically it. So there's some, you know, old friends that I don't hang out with as much. There's some friends I just don't talk to at all anymore.
Yep.
And, you know, that's okay. That takes a while to heal from too. I think people in general should acknowledge that more.
Yeah.
Friendships, because it could just be like, we talk about romantic relationships and breakups all the time, but with friendships, that one can be tough and take a while to heal from.
Definitely. I mean, when things, when people's lives change and you're not either ready for it, or that's not the vision you had for the relationship, and it exits your life without your permission or your involvement, it's tough. There's a piece of you that's missing in a way with those friendships, and it hurts sometimes just as much as a breakup.
100%.
So
absolutely. And so things that make me feel expansive. So with the film industry, I've been putting myself in the proper rooms to meet more people who want to head in the same direction. I think that's important.
Yeah.
And I think with some of my old friends, we weren't heading in the same direction. And so it started off, I went to Sundance last year, and I used, my in was my photography skill. I said, how do I get in here?
Right.
And so I cold emailed this company that elevates Asians in media. It's called Gold House. And I saw they were doing an event at Sundance, and I said, hey, do you need a photographer? You know, here's my portfolio. I mean, the email was longer than that. It was very clear. Here's a tip. If you ever want to pitch something, be very thoughtful.
Yeah.
About your pitch.
Of
like,
course.
hi, my name's Christine Chang. I saw your, to show you looked at their website. It's not just they're blasting it out to anyone. And I got an email back, and there's like, okay, so for clarity, we're going to put you up, And I said, yes. And they didn't even have a Zoom meeting with me.
Wow.
I was like, are you sure? Like, do you trust me that much that I'm going to get my ass out there? And I got hired to photograph out there. And some people asked, like, this was a cold email? I said, yes. And it got me into the room. Because at Sundance, sometimes it depends. Like, you can't get into all the events. And I was exactly in the room I wanted to be in. And photography is easy for me. And so I got to go again this year. I went to Cannes Film Festival. So I'm kind of learning. I'm like, okay, you know, where do I fit in here? What I want to do.
Yeah.
And I think the community aspect is huge, because I was feeling like I didn't fit into a space for a long time where I felt lit up. And now I'm starting to see the same people over and over. We recognize each other, building that trust, and it's finally getting there. So I feel that made, I think, the biggest shift in how I have been feeling with my career transition. Because before that, I felt like lost, completely lost, lonely too. Like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
And so now it's becoming more clear. And I think surrounding yourself with those who are on the same path, or want the same things, who are interested in the same things, is really, really important for me.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to like the circle of five, right? And when you put yourself around people who are all going the same direction, you guys are all striving for X, you want to be on that team, because you're all going to push each other to get to X first, and you're going to support each other. But if you've got somebody going to X, Y, Z, A, B, C, and you're in that group, you don't know how to support each other. You don't know how to be there for each other. You don't know how to improve each other. And it gets a little more complicated. And when it's like that, you know, with avoidance, like I do that same thing, it gets awkward. Yeah. And I avoid awkward situations. It's like, so you don't get to where you want at the pace you want with the people you want, and it taints the whole experience. So putting yourself in that room is great. And one thing that, again, like just comes across is like, you don't seem to second guess yourself. When you see something, it doesn't matter how big it is, how much of a leap it is. You're just like, that seems cool. Hey, I'm going to go see how I can get in using the strengths I got. Or like, I'm going to dive into this book. I'm going to dive into this podcast because I want to acquire this skill. I don't know where it's going to go, but I'm going to go with it. And then now you're using your experience, your skill to get yourself into the film industry. And when you also talked about transition, like, I love your resourcefulness and all of that, but you talked about career transition. So is the career transition from photography to podcast, which you said isn't really the end goal, but is the podcast just a stepping stone to the film industry?
Yeah.
And so
media.
the transition is from photography to filmmaking, ultimately.
Yeah, that's the bigger goal. And I actually realized that in the last couple years too, because with writing the book, and I said, oh, I can come out with some courses on dating. I could do some corporate speaking. I actually had a friend help me out with this. She's a coach. And she just knows how to ask the right questions, and she knows me.
Yeah.
And we were on a trip, and her and her husband work in the personal development world. And she said, hey, why did you choose this? I said, what do you mean? She's like, why do you want to come out with a course and do all that? And it was kind of a heart-to-heart moment. And I was like, because it's a practical way. I can see how I can make money here. And her knowing me, she said, you don't have to do this. She's like, I started coaching because of my husband. And she's kind of finding her way again after having kids. And she's actually going after her podcast as being her number one thing. And we had another friend who was a coach as well. And she said, do you think that he wants to be sitting around listening to people all day? Do you think that that's actually what he wants to do? He does it for money. She's like, you're in a position where you don't have to do this. What do you actually want to do? And it's scary to say sometimes what your dream is, because I can fail at this.
Yep.
I can try to make movies and completely bomb at it.
Yep.
It is really, I realized it was really scary for me to say. And so I said, I'm like, I would want to be telling stories in that way. I want to work in film.
Yeah.
And she's like, and you're a businesswoman, and this was at a point where I was kind of at the beginning of my being lost, And so she helped me a lot. And as I'm doing, so if you're in the space, I just recommend, like, just keep doing. Maybe you won't stick to something and you're going to have to adjust along the way, but just keep doing things. And if it's not working for you, adjust.
Right.
Stop doing it.
Yeah. I mean, what I say in the Rebel Project is that, like, if you don't know what to do, start with your passion and just do it. You don't have to understand why. You don't have to have this grandmaster plan. Just what lights you up. What is it that just gets you out of bed at 3, 4 in the morning? Like, you just love it. Start there. And when you do that more and more and more, clarity is going to follow.
Yes.
You're going to go, wow, now I know what to use this for. Doesn't necessarily mean you're going to make money, but you got to pay attention to how you feel. Like, you're in a great position where you, like I said, you've mastered the income, and that's a huge benefit to be able to have that and be able to tap into it and make more money when you need to. And it allows you to put your feelings as a priority and go, wow, this, where do I want to go that's going to cause me to expand today? And, yeah, so I lost my train of thought. Where's I going with that?
That's okay. You should leave. Are you editing this? You should keep this in. I challenge you to not edit your podcast.
Okay. Well, I was talking about the feeling and going, and your passion and passion, just doing it. Like you said, just do. And it'll eventually lead to clarity. And then that clarity is going to point you in the direction of what's the purpose of all this. And then once you realize that you're living in your passion with clarity on purpose, now you're going to be able to step into your power a little bit more. And then that's the money place right there.
Yes.
And that's where you go, wow, like, life almost feels surreal because things just happen almost as you think them. And you've managed to get yourself into a position where you're around people who are on the same frequency and can just like, hey, you just have an idea, you talk about it, and all of a sudden it is manifested into something real. It's like, hey, so last night's dinner conversation is now a project that you're doing the next day, and it just there's like right back into that intuitive spontaneity life, which is amazing.
Yeah, it feels good when you get there. I'm lucky I have reference, because from my photography business, I know what that feeling is.
Right.
Just flow. And my sister, I remember, would say, she's like, gosh, you work so hard. But to me, it didn't feel like hard work because I was so passionate about it. Wedding photography is a big workload.
Right.
But I was in flow. I love doing it. I don't mind editing all these photos like while we're traveling and things like that. I want to be doing it.
Right.
So my goal is to get that feeling. And I think for a while, because I was feeling depressed and stuff, like I did that, since I rely on my passion to really motivate and drive me, it was hard to be in that space.
Yeah.
And so it's also learning. It's always a balance, right, between that intuitive spontaneity and when do you need to be a little more linear and stick to the things. Because sometimes, you're not going to feel good all the time.
Right.
You're not going to feel good all the time. And looping it back to intimate relationships and romantic relationships, I think that's a good reminder, because I think with social media world, and we're constantly stimulated. So when we don't feel stimulated, sometimes we feel, I felt boredom. I'm like, is this it? Is this it? But that's life. I've never heard someone say, I want someone unreliable and unpredictable.
Right.
Right. Like you want someone who just you can count on, and that comes with, it's kind of predictable because you can count on them.
Which is hard for high performers.
Right.
Because high performers always want to be but relationships are like a flat road, and you're like, wait a minute, where are we going? Where's this? It's
right?
Like, no, we're just cruising. We are just enjoying the ride. It's like, no, we got to be climbing something.
Right.
And it's,
Isn't that funny?
Uh-huh.
It's a good reminder. That, sometimes things do feel boring. It's not going to be sexy all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm sure there's a lot of people listening, and just in life, who are going through career transitions, and there's a lot of feelings and emotions that come with it. What I love about your story is that you have been able to keep yourself in a position that you love what you do. And my dad always told me growing up, like, love what you do and you never have to work a day in your life. But there are a lot of people who get themselves in positions where they don't necessarily love what they do, and they get stuck and they don't know how to transition. So how did you either get to your place of loving what you do always and only taking on projects that bring out this expansion in you? Or what would your advice be to somebody who is going through that transition and they just want to be in a place where they love what they do?
It takes a lot of courage to pursue that.
Okay.
My husband is a W-2 guy. He was raised by a very traditional family, very practical.
Yeah.
It's funny because I was too. But he consults on the side as well now. And I didn't realize it because to me, he brings a lot of balance to us. Sometimes I call him a snail because I think he's so slow compared to me, but I'm like making decisions like, how long are you going to consult for before you go full time? But my friend was saying our neighbors, this couple, Terry and Jake, they were saying like, gosh, it's been lovely seeing how both of you have attuned to each other. And they're like, Pete has changed so much. And I'm like, has he? I'm like, that's true. Starting a consulting business, his first time having a business, his client's amazing. And I'm very patient with taking the jump to go full time for him.
Yeah.
Because he has a very high sense of duty.
Right.
And he wants to be the provider. That I understand. So I usually say, when you're ready to, but I think you should go full-time consulting when you're ready to. But there's a reality of it takes time to build up your clientele too. So he'll build it up to a point where he's comfortable and then he'll make the transition.
Yeah.
But when I see the paychecks he gets from his day job, sometimes I'm like, God, that must be nice to just know every 2 weeks you're getting that. And you just kind of don't have to worry.
Yeah.
But it's not his passion. He admits he just views it as work. I was just raised like work is work. And it's not he's miserable, but it's okay.
Right.
You know, like numbers, it's a thing. It's a job.
Yeah, exactly.
When I was doing photography, when I was starting out, I didn't get to pick all my gigs. Because, of course, I'm happy to get whatever I can for money. And it's not until I made enough money and I did enough work where it started to snowball, where I could be pickier with my clients. And that it feels good once you can get to that place.
Yep.
But then you also have to be very thoughtful in how you position yourself as well. For example, with my photography, you know, if I'm scared or if I'm anxious, like, am I going to get more work? So I continue to put out all sorts of photos in my portfolio. I got food, I got corporate, I got, you know, all this stuff. It's not very focused. And so I was intentional in putting the photos in my portfolio that I wanted more work, specifically down to what the couples looked like. And there was a certain energy and there was a way that I blogged. I swear in my blog, someone who's really just more uptight or maybe a bridezilla, people would ask me like, oh, the brides must be difficult. I said, I never get bridezillas. Never. I never get them because of the way I position myself.
Right.
But you also have to have the courage to put that out there because you are going to be saying no to some people then.
Right.
But it's a balance too, because if you're not at the point that you're making enough money, maybe you will still have to put some things in your portfolio just so you'll get some of that work and eventually you can take it off.
Yeah. No, the intentionality behind your positioning is so crucial, and you paid attention to every single detail. Like you said, like even when I'm blogging, like I infused a certain type of communication to intentionally block or detract a certain type of client. And, you know, like that's I think that's so crucial, is like for people, anyone listening, like details matter. And also knowing where you want to be and looking for the position on how to get there and waiting for the opportunity. Because if you're in the wrong position, you're gonna miss opportunities. But if you're in the right position, the opportunity is that much greater when you catch it.
Absolutely.
I love that. I love that. You have such a good awareness. Where did you get that from?
I think I was born with it. My mom has pretty good self-awareness too.
Okay.
She's realistic too, and she would call us out on things. We have a thing against the way we raise like the kids in our family and stuff. Like no 8th place trophies. Not if you suck at something, you suck at something.
Yeah,
you know, which I'm all about. I want to live in reality. I don't want to be delusional. Of course, I would balance it. Just Pete and I actually, as of right now, we don't want kids. But if we ever adopt in the future, something like that, I would be a little more aware of, I want the kid to live in reality, but also feel emotionally supported as well. I think that can be a tricky balance. But yeah, my mom's always been very self-aware. I think that's the first step, you know, in getting somewhere. I mean, but someone can be self-aware but do nothing about it. So I try. I try.
I love it. So where do you take this all? You know, do you have like a timeline? Do you have structure to this next phase or this transition? Or is it still in the building reputation phase of, hey, you know, I'm only a year and a half in. I've still got some faces to meet and some places to see and some things to learn. And in the meantime, I'm just going to keep acquiring the skills I need so that when I'm ready, I've got what's the process? What's the future look like for you?
Right now, I am building skill.
Okay.
I don't have a timeline. I think I still need a little more clarity, and I understand it'll come for me as I do more. There's so many things I want to do. So at least for my goals this year, I've started to do like Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. And it's not all work stuff too. It's like mentally, spiritually, I have to be good if I want to show up well, you know, in my relationships and work.
Yeah.
So being more consistent with my yoga practice, that's something that's kind of fallen off since the pandemic. I still go, but it's not the 4 days a week I used to go. And so one thing I want to do the yoga teacher training, not to teach yoga, but just to get deeper into my practice. And it's kind of my spiritual thing.
Right.
And all these things take time, right? So I'm very clear that you only have so many hours in the day, days in a year. So I will do my yoga training by the end of the year, take care of myself. I mean, because health also is number one, right? You don't have that, like, forget everything else.
Yep.
Take care of that. My relationships, my family's number one to me. As long as they're all healthy and we're good, I feel good.
Yeah.
And then everything else is, secondary.
I love it. Okay. Interesting. I love that. So, yeah, you're so I'm kind of baffled a little bit at like just how calm and focused you are. And, coming from like the high performance lifestyle, like, I've been to a lot of men's coaching groups, and like we come at it with like, here's your morning routine, you plan out this, you get, here's your targets for Q2, and like all these things, and like, and that's one way of living the high performance lifestyle. But I feel like you're still accomplishing so much more, and it's not so rigid.
Yeah, I don't like too rigid.
Yeah, so like my brain is trying to wrap around like what you're saying, because it's like it's very flow and just very like in the moment, in the energy, and just like I'll get there when I get there, but yet I'm also moving and I'm very productive and I'm very efficient, but it's not so much like 5 a.m. morning routine, workout, read, meditate, breathe, all these things.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to like understand that a little bit more, as just how to like breathe through it and enjoy and smell the roses as you're going at high speed.
Yeah. Well, it's function versus flow.
Yeah.
Right? Function. I'm all about function, because when people are too hippy dippy, it drives me nuts. Or they're too spiritual. Have you heard of spiritual bypassing? Where I'm like, okay, you're flowing through this dysfunctional relationship, but it's dysfunctional. Why don't you make it functional, or choose someone where you have a functional relationship to begin with?
Right.
But I think too much in either direction is not good. So it's always that balance, right? And I think for some people, rigidity works well. I think just pay attention to how you feel. So if you feel good having that morning routine and getting things done, and you genuinely feel good, then don't change anything. For me, I feel happier when it's balanced.
Yeah.
It's like the masculine feminine, right? Like there is a flow to it. And while having rigidity, you might get things done. You checklist. It's fine, but I'm like, what's the point of a checklist if you still feel empty and you're on to the next thing right after? What is the point of that then? Right? So the fulfillment, I think being present. So, yoga, it's yoga for me, and dance class, because when I'm connected to my body is when I feel good. Yeah. Some people are so in their head, they're completely disconnected from their body. And so for me, that's where I start. Some people, it's meditation, spending time in nature.
Yeah.
It's just slowing down too, because this capitalistic society we live in is so unnatural. As much as it's a gift to live in the U.S.,
That's
you
true.
can make as much money as you want, right? We're good at producing millionaires and billionaires. Like, sky's the limit. My mom would always tell me that. That's why they immigrated here. Sky's the limit. It's cool. But I know so many high performers also in the coaching space, and I can tell, I'm like, you're not even enjoying where you are in life. What is the point of this?
Right.
And that can be a loop people can be stuck in too, is wanting to optimize everything.
Yeah.
You want to be in personal growth. You want to dissect everything. Can we just eat a sandwich and tell some jokes and laugh, please?
Right.
Do we have to analyze everything and optimize everything? Right. And some of that is important. I think it's good to know if you want to do personal growth and be better.
Yep.
But it could be slippery slope.
I know. I've definitely gone too far down the rigid road where I've had daily discipline of like 600 days I've never missed. And, it's like, it's one way of doing things, but you do reach a point where it becomes apparent, or you have to ask yourself the question, am I enjoying this? And like you said, it is a slippery slope, because it's like, no, the discomfort is the way, endurance is the way, but like, well, is it the direction I want to go? Like something that a speaker said one time, Taylor Welsh, she's like, the worst thing that you can do in life is get good at the things that don't matter. And that just hit me, and I was like, geez, that's huge. And it's like, you can push so hard down a direction and force things to happen. You can get results, you can get, what you want, but did you enjoy the process? And like you said, like, you don't want to get on your deathbed and look back and be like, wow, like I did a lot, but I did not enjoy any of it. And so it is staying connected with the way you feel, what you want, the position and intention behind where you put yourself, who you surround yourself with, and just staying, in a way, authentic and true to yourself, and being ultra sensitive and aware of your boundaries and what you're willing to say, and what you're willing to say yes to in regards to yourself. And, yeah. I'm trying to, I come from this rigid, hard, like, daily discipline schedule. And so like, it's refreshing to hear your take of just, hey, this might not be the thing, but I'm willing to invest a couple of years into it because I love it. It brings out a side of me that I want to grow, and I'm going to be able to take that with me to the next thing. And it's just like, I love the freedom that you have in your pursuit of finding your highest, greatest self.
Thanks.
And your purpose,
Yeah, freedom's important to me.
Right.
And I think there's always phases too. Maybe rigidity is better for a certain time in your life until it's not.
Right.
And then you become more flowy, and then you find the balance. And I think life is forever that way. I think for me, I could use a little more rigidity right now.
Yeah, it does. I mean, you have the structure, which is good. And then the rigidity is just what, the daily habits.
Daily habits. I think overall, I consider myself pretty disciplined when I want to do something. At least, well, when I compare myself, I have a lot of artistic friends where I'm like, you're not disciplined. Like, they say they want to start companies or start businesses, and it just doesn't get off the ground.
Right.
I'm like, you got to keep going.
Yeah.
So I have some of it, but I think, the daily habits, I think with my exercise, and then I do have an office. I used to work from home, and I learned that does not work well for me. I want to get dressed, and I like having that separation. I'm much more productive. But I think having even more structure, sometimes my husband will be like, what are you working on today? And sometimes I do have an answer, and other times I say, I don't know. I'll figure it out when I get to the office. So having the to-dos, I want to finish at the end of the month, getting this out or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I love that. Yeah. The separation of work and home is so important for me as well. I've got to have like this separate space. It's almost like my thinking changes when I walk through the door of the office, So I love that different space. Okay. So 15 years of photographer, a couple of years as a podcast host on multiple podcasts, stepping into film. What, if you were to look back and reflect on all of this, what is your life communicating to you and to everyone who's part of your journey?
That's a good question. What is my life communicating to me and everybody?
Or what is your message through all of it?
I think it's live your truth.
Live your truth.
Yeah. It takes courage to do that, but live your truth. And just coming into who you are.
Yeah.
A lot of people feel like they can't be them. Or I think why they like listening to my silly podcast with the comedian, there's a freedom in self-expression where they think, I want to be able just to say things like that and be unapologetic about it.
Yeah.
And maybe it was in that moment you said something and someone's like, did you really say that? Like, oh, maybe on that day. And you know what? I've changed. And that's okay.
Right.
Giving yourself permission to change.
Yeah.
people grow. And I think being a little more understanding of that, I think the online space is getting a little better with like cancel culture and things like that. People, they won't just see a clip and then make a judgment. They'll be like, oh, let me listen to the full podcast. At least from my observation, it's getting a little better.
Right.
But it does take a lot of courage to be you and put yourself out into the world, because not everyone's going to like it too, and being okay with that.
Yeah.
Like, that's okay if you don't like it. I like it, and I'm happy.
I love it. I agree with you 100%. It takes a lot of courage to be you. And I think that there are people who just naturally have that authenticity built into them from the day they're born, and they've had the upbringing that breeds that courage. And then there's a lot of people, I think the majority of people, who don't feel comfortable. They have these desires, they have these passions, but they're either not in the right environment, they're not in the right group of people, they're in those people who's everyone's trying to go different directions, and it doesn't breed the platform or the confident feeling of them to let themselves out, let themselves shine. And, like part of the Rebel Project is like, I believe it's rebellious to be yourself in a world that wants you to conform and do what you're told, or consume things like this, or follow these rules. And it's like, you got to know the rules well so you can break them effectively. And that does come with courage, and to realize that and tap into that, I think is such a beautiful gift. And the whole reason behind this podcast is interviewing people like you, because I feel like there is an inspiration, there is a charisma, there is a contagious feeling of like, wow, like if she can do it, I could do it. And if she can have fun doing it, like, why can't I have fun doing it? And she can enjoy it and give herself the grace that she doesn't have to stick to what she decided yesterday. She's not quitting. She's just course correcting. She's pivoting. She's just changing tack. She's riding the wind the way that it's going to get her forward. And it's like that's such I hope a lot of people get that and take permission to give themselves that grace to change and grow and really get uncomfortable in a good way, to break down those walls and those barriers and break through into who they truly are called to be, or meant to be, or want to be.
100%. Don't forget to have fun too. I think that's a big one, especially for business people. It can be so serious.
Yeah.
And one of my friends told me that. She's like, you know what I like about you is you're a business person, but you still know how to have fun. Yep. I think especially for women, like boss women, sometimes we could, she's like, you're one of my few business women friends, and you're still silly, and you know how to just kind of relax a little bit.
Right.
I think that's important. Things aren't as serious as we make them out to be.
Well, I think along with that performance-based love, where it's like we're producing results, I think we often forget what experience we're giving to people. And so when you have fun, when you have a great time, like, that can't be bought. Yeah. And so I feel like that's the charisma that you have, is like, you just like you have fun with it. You find the beauty, you find the flow, you find the spontaneity in it, and you just roll with it. And it goes with your dancing, like improv, and just being able to flow. And I like that flow state is just so like enticing for a lot of people. So thank you for doing your life the way that you do it, and also just being courageous enough to step out and chase the biggest dreams you could think of. Because I think a lot of people forget that, especially when they get to late 30s, early 40s. It's like, oh, well, this is what it is. I just got to keep doing what I do. And it's like, it doesn't have to be that way. Right. You just got to keep feeding that imagination, that desire, that drive. So, yeah. Is there anything else you wanted to add? Did we miss anything?
No, I think it's good to close up. I could open up more cans of worms, but we'll do that in future
episodes. Exactly. Well, thank you again for coming in, enlightening the listeners, and sharing the way to have fun and have flow, and also do what you want, and honor the feelings that might not always be comfortable, but allowing them to be, and allowing yourself to expand and grow through it. I think your message is very powerful, and I think your life is speaking your message greatly. And if you guys enjoyed the episode, you guys can find Christine where?
Instagram, C Chang and Co. And then I think from there you'll get all my links.
Okay, she's got a couple of podcasts. You guys can check them out. If you guys like this one, like and subscribe and tell all your friends. And then if you like hers, like and subscribe and tell all your friends as well. And Christine, thank you again for being a guest. I really appreciate it. And for everyone listening, go chase your dreams. Nothing's too big. Just start one day at a time and give yourself the ability to flow and roll through it. And we'll see you guys next time.
Cool.
Thank
Christine,
you.
Do you mind if I ask you a quick question?
Oh, sure.
I'm curious, since you've been to other studios, what stood out?
What's that? Number one, you're on the water. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful location. Your camera equipment is legit. I come from a photography background. I like the couches. It's very thoughtful in here. It's very thoughtful. That's what it is. It's very thoughtfully done.
Okay. Cool. Thanks. Just curious.
Phew.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
So take some photos.
Oh, okay.
If you had something in your hair.
Is it something or is it my gray hair? No.
No, there we go.
Good. Tired of talking yet?
No. Sitting.
Yeah,
I
we're
gotta
keeping
stand-
it
I gotta
hydrated.
stand up.
Alright, so we'll grab these. That ruffle project in the background. And this one. Awesome. Let's do one more. Sorry. Cool. Cool. Love it.
Awesome.
There you go.
Thank you.
Did Brent show up?
Yes.
Oh,
Went to
cool.
the bathroom real quick.
Whew.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
You're good at asking questions.
Yeah.
It comes natural to you.
I love it. I love it. I was gonna like try and come up with like a whole list of questions for each guest, and I was like, I feel like that's just a little too.
Rigid.
Yeah, I would get all stressed out. Like, oh, how do I lead this into the next question?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
It's like,
I like your format. I
Yeah,
like that you're
you
kind of
should-
like getting that.
You actually listen and then you
Yeah.
organize my
Yeah.
thoughts and then you
Right.
Okay.
It's great.
That's what I love
The
to do.
recall is amazing. I'm like, wow.
I don't even know what I just said.
my process is to get all the puzzle pieces, put them together, and show you back what you said.
Mhm.
That's usually what I try
You're
to do.
weird.
And, yeah.
That's awesome.
So,
I do need to get a release
Oh, yeah.
from you,
Yes.
if possible. So I'm going to take a reference shot so we get the
Oh, yeah.
name to the face.
We try.
So we cross our T's, dot our I's. This will upload and then it'll be a form.
Project,
Fill out, okay?
podcast, going down to Dreamex Studios. Check out this set. These cameras.
And
The
then,
lights.
If you have any gaps.
So
that
2
are
episodes so
kind of
far.
those
They're coming out
cheese,
great.
like-
Super stoked. Dreamex Studios in Newport, right here on the water. It's such a cool little studio. We got the logo up there. It's a proud
First,
moment
yes.
for me.
There's plans to have a bunch, all over the nation. So, yes. Next one would be a bigger one in Costa Mesa, and then just keep going from there.
Second location.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Multiple locations.
But I do
What,
keep
4 years?
hearing, like, everyone from LA who comes down here is like, open a studio in LA.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But there's so much competition,
There
shy against it, but
But I feel like
It
we've
gives
already
me
made it
thought.
down. Like a lot of LA people have come over here and they're like, like now we're there.
we'll see.
Get them to sign up before we open it up.
Do you guys have a video background?
He does. I do photography.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yep. So when you were talking about it, like I only second shoot like weddings.
That's
Like,
it's fun.
yeah, because I just passed over the card and I'm like, I'm done.
Bye. Good luck.
You're right though.
What's up, bud?
Asians in film is big.
Yeah, right. I'm gonna ride that wave.
What?
One of my good friends is a writer, and she hasn't really sold anything yet. But
Chilling, my
she
dude.
worked for like a
Day.
couple of TV shows on Netflix. But she's getting way more opportunities
Thank
to
you.
do with that, which is good. I mean, it's a good thing.
So,
There needs to be more
yes.
voices. much of my girlfriend. Like, sometimes I'm almost like, I almost wanted, only because, so both of her parents like are very high achievers, started public companies, and like, you didn't say very much, did you? So how many on a little bit of like, with expression you, those types of things.
Great meeting you.
And
Little one or do you want a bigger one?
bigger one
probably.
Thank you. I don't want to call it big.
Top
Yeah.
service rack.
From
We try.
How many
Cheers for me.
Two so far.
But,
Oh, yes.
Yeah, good.
and so like hearing you a little bit, I was like,
Two so far.
thank you so
And you're
much.
flowing. Oh my goodness.
I know,
Yeah.
just because of how her father is, or how her, or
Oh,
what
yeah.
her mother was. Yeah.
Is there a code for the bathroom or?
No, just the key.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna go and watch that.
Quick wardrobe change. It's obviously a different day.
Obviously. He's changing
Aaron,
hats too.
nice to meet you. Yeah, same.
I want to
Thanks
take a
for
look
coming
at
out.
the same thing.
Yeah, no, I do the same thing. I do the same.
Now we also have, do you want me to hang
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'm gonna do this for the last guest. Nick Lowe's the last guest.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I know Nick.
get here at 1:30 or so. Yeah, he's always good. He's always a good talker.